And good evening. Thanks so much for watching HealthLine here on PBS Fort Wayne. I'm your host, Mark Evans, talking about a very topical, relatively topical anyway, subject tonight because it is the holiday season. We're going to talk about how to maintain your weight and maybe even lose a few pounds during the holiday season. But the main thing is not to gain it. And we're also going to start the show talking about the GLP-1 medications, better known as those little shots that you can give yourself and so forth. You've seen the commercials on commercial television. You know, I have type 2 diabetes, and a little presentation like that, some Broadway stuff going on. So we're going to be talking about those and how effective they are. And we have Dr. Ryan Singerman, who is our special guest tonight, and he's been here a few times before. It's great to see you.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
Absolutely. And you are a DO, Doctor of Osteopath.
That's correct.
And you also have, I don't think it's on your title bar when that comes up, but FAAFP. What does that stand for?
It is a fellow of the American Academy of Family Physicians. So that just means that not only am I board certified in being a family physician, but I've also spent a number of extra hours and time giving back to the community, teaching and doing things like that. That makes me at a fellow level for that academy.
Okay, very good. I was really curious about that. I saw that last time. I forgot to ask.
Yes, sir.
So the GLP-1 medications we're going to be talking about at first. I do want to open up the phone lines because I have a feeling this is going to be a hot topic this evening. 866-969-2720 is the telephone number to call. And we'll be here for you for the next half an hour. We are not commercial TV, so therefore we won't be stopping down for commercials. It's a 30-minute program, so get your calls in as soon as you can. So, Dr. Singerman, GLP-1 medications, how long have they been around?
Well, that's a really great question. So they've been around almost pushing into 8.5 to 10 years now. They've only recently become very much in vogue because the pen devices have gotten easier to use. They have had a lot better utility behind them so that they work better and they're a lot more accessible in that they're being prescribed for different things, not just for diabetes, but people use them for losing excess body weight. You sometimes see them being used for unhealthy livers and things like that. So they've become much more in vogue though because some of the newer ones have had such a tremendous impact on excess body weight.
So they are in turn effective then?
They are effective at doing that and helping to regulate that GLP-1 hormone that cannot be working as well in the body. And in a human, with the GLP-1s, when they're working properly, that can actually reduce some of the hunger signaling. They can make your pancreas work a little bit better, so you actually put out more of your own insulin, and also helps to regenerate some of your insulin cells that start to die off over time with diabetes. It also helps to slow down your stomach so you feel full longer, and can actually be very effective at protecting your heart from heart disease while also helping your muscles to burn more sugar and burn more energy. So they can be effective in many different ways at helping to prop up your human body if it's failing for some of those other causes.
And I've seen them being promoted to help with the AC1.
Right, A1C, the A1C, right.
Sorry.
No, that's all good, yeah.
The A1C factors. So, well, I'm glad to hear that they are effective. Now, it is not a magic pill, however, not a magic shot.
Correct. And you're right, there are actually some that are in pill form, but it's not a magic shot. And I think that's one of the things that is most frustrating is people on TV, on the internet, just in culture, all about, hey, I really want this shot that's going to fix everything for me. And they feel like there's no chance of it causing a side effect, or there's no chance of there ever being a problem with it. And unfortunately, there are. And especially when it comes to the desire to lose excess body weight, what I don't hear said enough is that any medication that is being used to lose excess body weight has got to be done alongside of intentional lifestyle changes. Too often, people are being given these medications, or they're buying these medications online and just taking it and hoping to see magic happen. Mm-hmm. And magic doesn't always happen.
No, you have to, and we're going to talk about this later in the show about how you need to have the mindset and also change your lifestyle. Now, I don't think we'll get in any trouble with the FCC or anything like that in listing some of these so that our audience can certainly be, they can make the connection. But what are some of these medications? I don't think they have a whole lot of competition among themselves.
No, so asked how long they've been around. One of the earliest ones was a medication called Bidurian, which was around for quite a while. They had a much bigger pen, and that's been out for many, many years. Didn't quite capture the market share, I think, because of how hard the device was to use. And then you had some of the newer ones. There was a Trulicity that was out for a while. People may have heard of that one.
I do remember that.
There are, of course, the Ozempics and the Wegovy and the Zepbound and then the Mounjaro are some of the bigger ones out there. There are some oral versions that are available. So there's so many different types of brands, and they all work a little bit differently. And the method of action does tend to play mostly around the GLP-1 hormone, although there are some that have more than just that one hormone in it. Tirzepatide, which is the Zepbound, or the Mounjaro, has both a GLP-1 and a GIP hormone put together in there that do a little bit different stuff. So it's kind of.
Well, I want to make sure I make this disclaimer. We're not here to promote any of those. We are simply here to provide information about them because it seems to be something that's very, very popular these days.
And they work really well, especially when it comes to helping control type 2 diabetes because of how they affect the pancreas and help lower that blood sugar. One of the net effects of it, though, is how much it can help reduce excess body weight. And in some individuals, we're looking at possibly reducing 15, 20 to 25% of excess body weight. And quite frankly, starting to get into the amount of weight loss you would see if someone had had a bariatric surgery.
Okay. We do have our first call coming in, and it's from Max. Max is actually wanting to stay off the air, and that is perfectly fine. As long as we get your questions, you can ask them yourself, or we can transcribe them. I can read them for you. Max is asking, I'm currently on Ozempic, and I'm experiencing constipation as a side effect. What do you recommend to help to get back to the regular schedule?
That's a really great question.
And I love this show because we can be so candid about things like that.
Well, I'll still try not to be too vulgar.
Oh, okay. Okay. You won't be vulgar.
No, not at all.
Maybe overly candid.
Yeah, I won't do that. So, Max, great question. So, when it comes to these medications, part of the effect that they can have is slowing down some of your GI tract, slowing down your stomach emptying, slowing down your bowels emptying as well. The other reason why constipation can occur because of these medications is because you're not likely to be eating as much as you were eating. So, you can have less fiber coming in, you could be drinking less, and your colon's main job is to keep you from dehydrating, keeping fluid from excessively leaving your body. And so if you're not drinking enough fluid, when you go to have a bowel movement, it can be like trying to push a bunch of dry clay through a desert. It's just not going to go very quickly. So some of the things you can do to work on is, one, make sure you're getting more dietary fiber in if you haven't been. And if that is not coming in the realm of actual fruits and vegetables, you can use something over the counter that might have insoluble fiber. Usually called psyllium husk, often found under the brands of like Miralax or Benefiber or similar, to be able to work with that. And then the other thing is making sure you're drinking plenty of water. And I'm often asked, how much water should I be drinking? And you might hear 6 cups a day, 8 cups a day. Reality is you should be drinking enough water that at least once a day when you go to urinate, your urine is completely colorless. You'll know you've hit a full saturation. If every time you go to use the restroom and you urinate and urine is dark yellow or even a little bit yellow, you're probably not fully hydrated and you should keep working on that. So those are some simple steps that he could do to try to help push off the constipation, get back to regular schedule. But if it is continuing and not getting better, you definitely need to talk to your doctor about that because long-term constipation can absolutely have bad side effects and bad outcomes.
What are the, what would you call it, the qualifications for a patient to be on a GLP-1 medication? I mean, do you have to be a certain weight, a certain health situation, or maybe a little bit of both? What's going on there?
That's a great question. So it can actually fall into a whole host of different areas. The first one it could be is simply if you're looking at for type 2 diabetes, then it's anybody with an A1C of 6.5 or greater could technically qualify. Now, because of the expense of these medications, insurance programs usually have you jump through multiple hoops before you could get there, but an A1C of 6.5 or greater is usually something that would qualify. There have been some new indications for some of these for those who are dealing with what we call non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, where your liver may have fat cells invading into it, causing destruction, causing your liver enzymes to go up, and there's been some indications to use it for that. Then the other reason is, of course, for those using it for excess body weight. So if somebody has a BMI of 30 or greater, then that would be potentially, depending on the insurance, not always on the science, but at least for the insurance, would be a reason to consider using one of these medications. Now, if you are somebody who has struggled for a long time to lose excess body weight, and you are maintaining a BMI of 27 or greater and having multiple comorbidities, let's say you have sleep apnea or type 2 diabetes or some other kind of thing alongside like high blood pressure or high cholesterol, that may be appropriate, but it's not what I would ever consider to be a first-line medication.
All right, so is it more classified as a last resort or somewhere in that realm?
Not necessarily a last resort, but more of an issue where sometimes sometimes always, never good at that statement. Sometimes we reach for a nuclear bomb when a fly swatter would have been okay.
I see.
Right?
Yeah.
So how many times is this being used in place of that intentional lifestyle change of making sure people's calorie intake is appropriate, making sure that they're working on their mental health, which is so important? How many times would a medication, like in the case of these GLP-1s, which can cost $800 to $1,500 a month, and that's, with insurance, covering a lot of that, that's still a big expense, when maybe a $2 or $3 a month medication would do just as well.
Right.
So I think people see the big flashing lights and these great advertisements and the good paid actors and all this, and they want to go for that, and it's everywhere. I mean, the marketing for this medication, you can't get over what people are saying on the different online social media platforms, and everyone's talking about it. And I think see what people want to be on this big train, but it can have a lot of side effects that are potentially very problematic.
Mm-hmm. And we mentioned that there's one that you can use via pill, but most of them are injection.
Correct.
And I think I've seen those. They look like actually writing pens with a needle about this long. Where do you inject yourself?
Usually when people are injecting themselves with these, they would do it either on their abdomen, or they can potentially do it on their upper thighs. I'm pointing to my thighs, but you can't see, I'm under the table. But yes, pointing to your upper thighs. Depending on your sensitivity, you might find one side is better or easier than the other one, but these medications work pretty well, provided that you don't always use the same spot. You do want to rotate it around on your abdomen, because if you keep doing the same place, you're more likely to get not only little pockets of the medication, but to cause irritation to the area. So you definitely want to rotate the location around.
So when you do that, is it like a little click on the end? You put it up against your abdomen and you click it, or is that how that works?
It absolutely depends on the device.
Okay.
So it depends on which one that you have. So
various
everyone's
devices.
a little bit different.
All right. I would have issues, to be honest with you, because it's a needle.
Sure.
So, but and I do know diabetic patients who hated needles, but if they didn't have a needle and were taking insulin, they wouldn't be on the earth right now.
That's fair. One thing that has made a huge difference, we used to think of these insulin needles and pens, like it's a 3-inch long needle and it's, a huge bore. Actually, the needles we use now are almost as thin, if not a little bit thinner than the average human hair.
Oh, wow.
And they're only about 1/4 of an inch long, because these are not going down to the muscle. They're just going underneath the skin just to get into the underlying fat tissue that's underneath there,
Right.
and getting absorbed that way. So they're actually, it hurts significantly less than if you were pinching yourself. It's pretty impressive how comfortable at least the needle part of that is.
Well, and you said they've been around 8-10 years or so, but are you satisfied personally as a physician who probably prescribes this from time to time, the safety and the efficacy and also the legality of this medication? Are you happy with the track record it has so far?
So,
and would most physicians say that?
I would think, okay, so broadly yes, but then there's a caveat no. So the broadly yes, these medications are great, but they're far from perfect, and they don't work for all people. There are certain individuals who wouldn't qualify for it. If you've had certain kinds of thyroid cancer previously, if you have a history of pancreatitis, it might make you more likely to have pancreatitis again. You got to be careful with that. If you already are somebody who struggles with your stomach emptying regularly, something we call gastroparesis, you may need to be really cautious about using these medications. If you're going to be having any kind of surgical procedure, these things slow things down. So most surgeons and most anesthesiologists want you to be off that medication for at least a week ahead of having a surgical procedure. So in that instance, they can have side effects. Other things just like GI upset, vomiting. There are some concerns about how you can feel a lack of energy with it, or even have mood changes, which, yes, could be some of the medicine, but most of the data right now is pointing to it's more about just lack of total calories coming in because you tend to be reducing your appetite quite a bit.
Okay.
So the lack of energy and maybe having some anhedonia, not feeling like doing stuff, might be more related to the lack of calories and changing in that lifestyle there. But when you talk about this safety, yeah, they really are very safe. It's very hard to cause any kind of permanent damage or harm. I'm not saying it couldn't happen, I'm saying it can be a little bit hard. However, there is a challenge there because they are so expensive and they have been hard to find, they've been manufacturing delays, that you can get to a point with them where people are desperate for them. Insurance may not cover it and they may be very expensive to pay out of pocket. So there's a lot of these compounding pharmacies that are taking these medications and making them available at a reduced price. And I said, the average one of these paying cash for it, you might pay $800 to $1,300 to $1,500 a month for these. Well, you see these online pharmacies and other compounding ones who will say, hey, we'll sell it to you for $150 a month. I mean, who's not going to jump at that? Sometimes they've been struggling for so long to lose body weight, they want to go right to it. Well, where's the harm in that? They're offering these medications as their generic compound, but there is no generic formula available. It's not been released. It's not out of patent. So where they're getting the compounded salt is usually from third parties that are not even in the United States. And so there's purity concerns, there's efficacy concerns. They're often being combined with other things like B12, or even sometimes I've seen advertised on some of these websites where they're actually combining with other weight loss medications to give people even more and more robust response. And then they're sending you a vial that they've labeled themselves with some syringes to inject yourself with. You're taking an awful risk that what they say in it is really in it. And I understand that the desire for people to get healthy is something I work with all the time with people, but there's a lot of concerns about the efficacy, the safety of these online compounding pharmacies, and they're also working in a legal gray area. The FDA does have a statement that if a medication's on a shortage list, then you could compound it to get around that and sell it. Well, they've had some manufacturing delays, so for a while now they've been on these shortage lists, but they've been coming off, and then that's been causing issues. And some of these manufacturers have actually been taking legal action against the compounding pharmacies. So the individual patient's not going to be at risk, but it does make me concerned. So you don't know necessarily what you're getting. You don't know what the safety standards are. These medications have not necessarily been studied in the way they're being used in compounding pharmacies. So it has to be taken with a large grain of salt. And it goes back to the old statement of buyer beware.
Yeah, I thought it'd be very important to bring that up. So it's probably best just to go with what's prescribed.
It's definitely the recommendation, and this is coming from not only the FDA, but also it comes from one of the places I'm boarded by, which is the Obesity Medical Society. They also recommend, we should be really careful about using compounding pharmacies.
Okay. We still have about 10 minutes left in the program. The number is 866-969-2720. Talking to Dr. Ryan Singerman, who is a specialist in weight management and also a specialist in just family doctoring.
Yes, sir.
Just all-around great guy. So let's segue here a little bit because it is the holiday season. Oh, wait a minute. Rosano is online too. He has a call. Rosano, I do beg your pardon. Go ahead with your question for Dr. Singerman.
Yes, I would like to know if I no longer have a gallbladder, but going on a spinach diet, could it help you lose weight?
That's a really great question. So if you no longer have a gallbladder and you're trying to lose excess body weight, would spinach help? And generally speaking, yes, spinach would be very helpful because you can get not only some great nutrients from it, but that is a large leafy vegetable that takes up a lot of bulk and space in your belly and helps you feel full. So anything that is space occupying and high in fiber is going to help you feel more full and hopefully help you reduce your total hunger and eating less. The real key when it comes to any kind of lifestyle and dietetic approach, though, is even if you're eating healthy foods, are you eating the right amounts of them? I have found it sometimes surprising to me when my patients are shocked when I say, look, even though you're eating healthy food, you're still gaining weight because the amount that you're eating is not appropriate for your height, your weight, and your age. And so we have to work through that. So yes, eating a spinach salad might be just fine, but if you're covering it in 3 gallons of ranch dressing and you're throwing in a handful of cheese and putting a side of beef on it, it may not be such a healthy salad. So you got to really make sure you're looking at all the different components there.
Yeah, that's a great question, Rosano. Thank you very much, and happy holidays to you. We want to talk about some weight management during the holidays, and to be honest with you, I mean, obviously I'm no skinny mini. I have been heavier, much heavier in my life. But holidays were always a struggle, mainly because I seem to graze. Oh, somebody brought cookies into the office. Oh, somebody brought some candy. And all those calories add up. You don't know it, but you have that issue, and you also have a tendency to overeat because you're sitting down with family and so forth, and you sometimes gorge yourself like around Thanksgiving. Luckily, I did not this year, but I'm very conscious of it because I hate to gain the weight because it's so hard to lose it, and it takes time to lose it. So let's talk about how we can at least maintain our weight and not gain it through the holiday season.
That's a really, really great question and very pressing for right now. Bottom line, when you're going to lose excess body weight and you're trying to maintain it even at that, and you're going to be faced with the different holidays and the gatherings and the meetings and the parties and the foods that are out there, what I'd strongly recommend doing is, if you know you're going to go out to eat and you know you're going to go to a friend's house for a party, maybe conserve your energy, conserve your calories for that time period. So if you're going to go there, maybe don't have your full breakfast or your full lunch. Do something very, very small. Instead of having a full breakfast, maybe a small yogurt, maybe just do a protein shake. If you're going to have a large meal and then go out for dinner later, maybe just only have a small side salad so that you can keep your calorie content at a lower level during the day, so that if you're going to go out, you've got a little bit more room to spare. The other thing you can do if you're going to go to these large dinners and gatherings, instead of taking a full serving spoon full of every dish that's out there, maybe just get a teaspoon or just like a tablespoon and just take a taste of everything. That way you're not denying yourself the chance to try it, but you're also not putting so much food on the plate that we all have our mother in the back of our head saying you got to clean your plate, which is not necessarily a great place to be, but we tend to do it. So take a small taste of things instead of all of it. And the last thing is, don't say no to yourself on everything, but don't say yes to everything either. If you have someone bring in all the cookies and all the cakes and all the ice cream, whatever it is, reserve yourself to 1 sweet a day. Doesn't have to be all of them, but just do 1 a day. And not do like 5 cookies of the same type, but maybe just 1 cookie or 1 small piece of pie. And just make sure that you're moderating yourself over the next holiday season.
What is that, the old saying, moderation is the key. Yeah.
Even moderation sometimes.
Well, I did some research before the show, as I always try to do for these HealthLine programs, but some information I retrieved from the Mayo Clinic. But one of the things that really impressed me and it was really highlighted on here was make sure, especially if you're going to start on a weight loss program, make sure you're ready. And you don't do it just because the doctor told you to. You got to find some inner motivation, don't you? You have to find a reason to do it.
It's one of the challenging times of the year where everybody in the next few weeks is going to finally be ready to go make that lifestyle change and to push through for that new you, the new year kind of thing. Reality is when you're trying to help, you've got to be at that mindset. If you're trying to get healthy, you may need to be making a 180-degree change in every area of your life, not just what you're eating, but how you're sleeping, how your mental health is, what your diet is like, who your friends are, where you're going out to eat. All those different aspects play a role. And you've got to be ready to make it. And if you're just looking for a quick fix, I'm just going to go to the gym, I'm just going to change my lifestyle, it doesn't happen on a dime. So making small, achievable goals and having somebody help hold you accountable is going to be really important.
Absolutely. We have time for one more phone call, and we'll have to do this kind of quick. And Diana's on line 1 or line 5. Oh, she's off the line. She wants us to ask verbally. She has type 2 diabetes on the keto diet. She's wanting to know if that's safe for that. And she's also currently on a Ozempic, and what is it, Lantus? Will this affect or have any type of side effects?
So great question, Diana. And generally speaking, the keto diet is a decent way to help control blood sugar and lose excess body weight. But you have to be careful because the significant reduction in calories that can occur alongside of a keto diet, and when you're cutting out a lot of carbohydrates with the keto diet, can significantly decrease the amount of insulin you're taking in that Lantus. And you need to make sure that you're talking to your doctor about that to make sure that you have a plan in place so you do not overdose yourself with insulin and end up having a low blood sugar effect. But otherwise, yes, it can be safe even while you're taking Ozempic, and it's something that can be explored. Keto diets are effective ways of helping lose body weight. Statistically, they're hard to maintain, but it's not a bad place to start.
I will tell you that it's been about 20 years ago I was on a keto diet, and I did it during the holiday season. I lost 40 pounds in 10 weeks.
Right on, man. Good job.
That's right. Okay, Dr. Ryan Singerman, thank you so much for being on the show tonight, and some very, very important topics especially for the holiday season, and the new craze, the GLP-1 medications. All right.
Pleasure being here. Thank you.
Hope to see you again very, very soon.
Thank you.
And we thank you very much for watching tonight. We sure hope you have a happy and healthy holiday season. Until next week, good night and good health.
The preceding program on PBS Fort Wayne was made possible in part by
Momentum, progress, innovation. Parkview Health knows standing still isn't an option. We must learn, grow, excel, and actively work to advance healthcare for our community and beyond. With technologies that improve access to care and teams of specialized providers, we are moving healthcare forward. Right here at Parkview Health.